Alongside Sam Olber, I'm Matt Cozy, and this is Locked on Cubs. And today we are pleased to be joined by one of the best pitchers in baseball, good old number 35, Cubs left-hander Justin Steele is with us. Justin, thank you so much for being on.
Oh, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Happy to be here.
Justin, I want to start the show. I got good news and bad news for you.
Okay.
The good news is I've been watching the Cubs a long time. Matt has as well. And there's certain people that just get what it means to be a Cub. They get it. They perform. They understand the fans and kind of just personify what it is. So it really is. You're one of those guys. It's an honor to have you on. The bad news is that you and I share one thing in common, as we just talked about off air. We both root for really, really bad football teams. The Bears are a bad football team, and the Saints are a bad football team. So take that for what you'd like.
I would have to there's nothing I can do but agree with you. We started off red hot, and a lot of people were jumping on the bandwagon when we started 2-0 and won in the fashion that we did. But I kind of saw the writing on the wall. I saw that I didn't feel like we were a very deep football team, and it kind of came to fruition as the season played out. But, just got to attack this offseason as far as the Saints go and kind of put the best foot forward.
Yeah, good luck. Anyway, I want to ask my first real question about what I said early on, because, I think I speak for a lot of Cubs fans when I say that you kind of get it. You ooze leadership. My favorite part of your season last year wasn't the situation in Milwaukee, but people forget the next game you throw a complete game after that whole thing against the Angels. And my first question is do you look at yourself as one of the leaders of this team? And do you think that a starting pitcher who's only on the field once a week can be the leader of a ball club?
I wouldn't say I necessarily look at myself as a leader. I think there's guys in the clubhouse that I even look at as leaders. People like Dansby, Ian Happ, J-Mo, guys that have kind of been around a little bit longer than I have been in different locker rooms, different situations and stuff. But, I like to think of myself as someone that everyone in the clubhouse kind of has gotten to know. I've been around the organization for so long. Anytime someone comes in that's new from a different organization or someone getting caught up, I, get to know them pretty immediately and, build that relationship. So in a sense, I can kind of see where that kind of translates just because I have a relationship pretty much with everyone on the team, even like the coaches and stuff. I do a really good job of talking to all the coaches, even on the hitting side and whatnot. So I would say in that aspect of just like having the relationships with everybody.
Justin, speaking of leadership, I wanted to ask you about Craig Counsell. It was such a big move back in November of 23 when the Cubs did decide to make that managerial change. It came out of the blue, perhaps even for the players. I believe you guys are on record as saying, that it was a surprise to you all as well. Why is Craig Counsell the right manager to lead this team?
Pitching against that ball club when he was on the other side in Milwaukee, it was always a tough battle. It just kind of seemed like no matter what they had, they were always, in the game or, in the NL Central or just in the National League period, competing every single year. And just seemed like he had a really good, leadership group over there and doing what he was doing. So, it was a surprise. I remember being in the weight room here in Mesa at our facility, and I'm going through a workout with our strength coach, and the strength coach gets an email where it's like kind of breaking down what's going on. He kind of tells me, we're kind of like both sitting there like in shock a little bit. And then like 5 minutes later, it was on the TV, going across the ticker. So it was wild, and it's kind of weird to think back to that, that moment. But, it's been great having him, and, you can immediately see why he is, respected and renowned as a manager and stuff, just the way he goes about his business. He's prepared for every single situation that comes about in a baseball game. So, yeah, it's been awesome.
That's good to hear. I want to transition into your repertoire and kind of your breakout. I think a lot of people label 2023 as the breakout year for you, but really it kind of started the second half of 22. Mm-hmm. And I'm not a big analytics guy. I know it has its place in the game. We use it all the time on the show, but when it when it comes push to shove, I like to go a little bit old school. And when I evaluate you and what changed, my big takeaway, and I want you to correct me if I'm wrong, and please do. I feel like one of your biggest changes was just being more aggressive in the zone and just attacking hitters more. And just kind of, because, early on in 21, there was a lot of deep counts, a lot of, longer outings. And it just feels like the big adjustment, or one of them, I'm sure there's a ton, was, hey, I got really good stuff. If these guys hit the ball early in the count, I'm good with it. And that's really was a big trigger. Am I wrong on that?
No, I wouldn't say you're wrong at all. I mean, well, for one, I'm constantly making adjustments. I'm making adjustments, every single day, even when I'm playing catch. Like if I, cut one a little too much, I try to stay on it a little bit more. It's just like anything, if you're playing golf and you're trying to correct your swing or something. So for that, like I would say I'm always adjusting, even, from pitch to pitch, even playing catch, bullpens. During a game, I'm making adjustments constantly. So I think it's something that just happened over time. You get to a level like the big leagues and like there's nothing above it, and you kind of have your feet set there. You slowly start kind of figuring out what works for you at that level, what makes you tick, what makes you good. You start noticing what other teams do to you, especially when you face them over and over again, what adjustments they're making, how you kind of counteract that. So I would say it's kind of just all in all, just kind of getting my feet under me, gaining the experience at the big league level, figuring out what makes me work, and then kind of from there just making the adjustments as I continue to play. Like, for instance, I've faced guys in the NL Central a ton now, so like I kind of have to go about their lineups in different ways. Whereas if I face, I think I've only faced the Blue Jays, or I don't think I've faced the Yankees yet. So like if I face them, I can kind of just kind of go out there and do what I do and be my normal self.
So it's not a matter. So like when you came back from injury and you had kind of those back-to-back, I would say in hindsight, like fluky Pittsburgh starts.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of, hey, I'm going to stick to the same process. I know over time it's going to work out. It's, hey, I want to see exactly what I'm doing. I got to face these guys. In that case, it was back-to-back outings. So you're just constantly adjusting and trying to fix things.
Yeah, and I would say to that specific situation, just coming back from the injury, I remember I was coming back from the hamstring, I believe, right in the beginning of the season last year, and I remember like as soon as the hamstring happened, I was like, I just need to get back into games. I need to like as soon as possible get back to help the team. So, like I remember I was throwing throughout that process, but like it was like modified to where I wasn't putting a ton of stress on my hamstring and stuff. So now I think I only had one, maybe two, like actual rehab, I would say like assignments or whatever. And then I was back in the game. So there was definitely like a period there. I was like just knocking rust off. Like I remember the home run I gave up to O'Neal Cruz. It was like 0-2 or 1-2. I'd gotten where I wanted, and I was like just needing to execute a slider, out of the zone, swing and miss, and I literally threw it right down the middle, and he did exactly what O'Neal Cruz does to a pitch like that. He hit it like 480 feet. It was insane. But yeah, it's just like I would say situations like that is where you're kind of just knocking the rust off, but like kind of once you get into your groove, I would say like you're like 5 to 10 starts into the season or into a stretch, you kind of find your footing, find your groove, and then you're kind of just fine tuning at that point.
You mentioned your reaction to Craig Counsell being hired. How did you react when you heard the Cubs traded for Kyle Tucker? And one thing, Justin, that we've talked on this show before about is maybe if the Cubs acquire somewhat of that ilk offensively, everybody else would get better, the team would get better. So what was your reaction when the Cubs got Tucker, and why do you think he could be a good fit for this current group?
I mean, I feel like I had the same reaction as everybody else. I was obviously really excited. I actually played him a lot in high A when I was in Myrtle Beach, and they were the Astros had a high A affiliate there. So I actually played against his team quite a bit, and they had a really good roster there at the time. They had Miles Straw, him, just to name a few. But so I got to face him quite a bit there, and I kind of saw how good he was at that point. So I knew the guy was going to be a stud, or like even at that point, he got caught up not much longer later, and then seeing what he's been able to do in Houston with those guys that he's been around, I mean, it's impressive. And like when you add somebody like that to the team, you can't help but make the team better.
I want I want to go back, and I know you probably don't, and we don't have to, but I think it's part of next year as well. I want to just rewind to May and June of last year, and I think this will be a helpful exercise because we're podcasters. We do shows every day, and we see things. We see things from a distance. We're not in the clubhouse. I don't know what it's like to play 162 games. I never will, right? But from a distance, it felt like that 2-month stretch was just a little bit too status quo, a little bit, hey, let's just get him tomorrow, a little bit less urgency, kind of like what Kyle and you guys were talking about with the Boog thing. And then you had your situation in Milwaukee, and I think every fan reacted so positively to that because you were speaking for 100,000 Cub fans at the time. Do you feel like it took too long to turn up the dial, or is that just one of those things where, hey, guys aren't hitting, we're going to look flat, but the urgency was there the whole time? What was that?
Yeah, I think the urgency is there the entire time. I think the thing in Milwaukee was more so like it was just like maybe that single day or that single inning, like we weren't just showing we weren't playing to the standard that we all knew we were capable of playing, and I think that was just kind of things getting overheated for me, and I'm not an angry person whatsoever, so it was just one of those moments. But I don't think there's like I mean, I feel like early in the season, like especially the way our season started, I had the injury. We were kind of banged up early in the season, and then we were playing well, and then guys were starting to come back. Kind of like I was saying, you're trying to get your feet back under you, getting a groove of things, and just the way the season played out, it kind of turns into like a 2-month thing, like you're speaking of. Like where it does, like you look at it on paper, it doesn't look like the team was playing great ball. But I think the focus was there every single day. We were not, treating every single game the same and like wanting to win them and stuff. And then you kind of see at the back end of the season, like, what kind of baseball we actually could play and how good we can be. I mean, if you just stretch that over 162, we're in a different spot. We're talking about different things at that point. But, yeah, it's just, I mean, I agree with you that, that we had a stretch there where things just weren't really going our way.
Yeah. And it's like, so what you're saying basically is it's not a situation like the guys, everyone knew they needed to pick it up. It wasn't a complacency thing. It was just, unfortunately, for 2 consecutive months, that's what happened. Because the other 4 months, this was a really good baseball team.
Yeah. And I mean, there's like other metrics and stuff that you can like dive into and look at and kind of see where like, yeah, like the team was just getting unlucky. Like things were just kind of happening, as long as, it's all about kind of timing. Like injuries happen, teams get hot, a single guy gets hot, it affects everyone else. Like there's so many different aspects of the game that kind of intertwine and, can turn what is a good stretch into a bad stretch or vice versa.
Justin, I'm not sure if you saw the Red Sox documentary on Netflix called The Comeback. Did you see that?
I didn't. I really don't watch much TV, to be quite honest. I watch football, like sports, and then I watch Landman. That's the only show I've watched in probably 5 years.
Hey, good cameo from Jerry Jones. I saw that.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
In The Comeback, Kevin Millar, now on MLB Network, is talked a lot about as being a boisterous personality, a glue guy. That in spite of baseball, he would bring the team together, soften the blow, maybe in hard times. Who would you say on the Cubs is a personality that maybe lightens up a room or the mood depending on what's happening that day? And do you think teams need someone like that?
Yeah, I mean, I like to think of myself as someone that can like lighten up the room. Like if things aren't necessarily going well, like I can crack a joke and like feel comfortable. Like even if it's like an uncomfortable situation, just kind of say something that like lightens the tone of everything. J-Mo's really good at it. J-Mo's really good at, making the team dinners, bringing the pitchers and catchers together, doing different things like that. So I would say he's really good in that aspect. Happer's put together some team dinners and stuff. I would say we have a good like collective group of guys, that's just kind of always, cognitive of that.
You mentioned, I want to follow up just real quick on the last part, because this is always fascinating to me about baseball. Why, even if I had talent, I could never be a professional baseball player, because there's so many things that you mentioned. Luck, right? How do you handle, let's say you go out, it's a random June game at Wrigley and you're throwing the ball great, and you have broken bats landing and infield hits and all these things. And at the end of the day, it is it is luck. There's nothing you could have done differently to change that result. So how do you compartmentalize with that? Is that one where you just say, hey, process was great, move forward, or do you adjust with that? Because that's always the hardest part for me. I get so when you're pitching and someone gets an infield hit to third, like I'm watching and I get upset.
Yeah, especially at Wrigley, like you can just have days where like you're pitching great, you're executing pitches like probably the best you have all season, but things just aren't going your way. Balls are finding holes. The wind could be blowing out, and someone hits something that 85 off the bat, and it gets into the basket.
Right.
I remember an outing I had. I think it was when I first started like getting into the starting rotation. I gave up like a 87 mile an hour off the like broken bat home run to the Cardinals. I forget exactly who hit it.
I should know this.
But it was unbelievable. Like I jammed him. Like I heard the bat break, and I looked to left, and the outfielder's just running backwards, and it just lands in the basket. And I look at Tommy, the pitch coach. I'm like, I don't know what I was supposed to do right there. Like that was just one of those situations where I made some other bad pitches that game as well. The score wasn't 1-0 just from that one swing.
Right.
I gave up some runs. Like I wasn't pitching all that great, but yeah. And then there's vice versa, same thing. Like I could literally be throwing meatballs the entire day, but the wind is howling in, and I can just get a bunch of fly balls and go seven innings, and it turned into a good day. So that's the crazy thing about baseball.
Do you think Wrigley will play more normal this year? Last year, all the talk was pitcher, pitcher, pitcher.
I mean, it's literally a coin flip every single day where the wind's going to be blowing out. Like the first thing I do is look at the flags and which way the wind's blowing, and like that kind of dictates how I'm going to pitch that day.
As of right now, you're with the Cubs through 2027. I'm sure there'll be some more rumblings about this next week at the convention. Maybe even fans who have an opportunity to ask you during some of those panels. But we wanted to ask you first, what is your interest level in a contract extension, and have you spoken to the Cubs about it?
I mean, no, me personally, I haven't had any discussions or conversations as far as that stuff goes. I mean, so yeah, it's something that hasn't been brought to me from the team or anything. But I mean, if it's something that was brought to me in front of me, I would sit down, look at it, obviously, and take it into serious consideration and kind of decide what made sense for me and my family at that point. But to answer your question, no, nothing's been brought to me.
Matt, I think that's really all we had. I mean, honestly, it was, I want to speak for you because I think sometimes athletes, we watch you guys from a distance, and it's not so unfair to you guys. We watch you play, we watch you do media, and then say, hey, that guy's a good guy, or I don't like that guy that much. Nobody actually knows you. But I could just tell like from your communication, you following up and things like that, you seem like a super great guy. And it was really awesome to have you on the show. We'll see you at CubsCon, and we're glad you're a Cub, and we hope it's forever as a Cub. So
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me, guys, and thanks for all the rescheduling and stuff. It's a hectic life, even in the off season for me sometimes. But I'm glad I was able to get on here with you guys.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much,
Justin. The show as well. I listen.
We appreciate it, man.
Oh, awesome. All right. See you later.
See you.
This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel, because right now new customers can bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same-game parlays, and so much more. I'm leaning Pittsburgh in Baltimore, getting 9.5 points. I just think Mike Tomlin's if they're going to go out losing 5 in a row, I feel like that'll be a competitive, it's a division opponent type of game. I think that's where I'm going to go FanDuel. The other games are a little tricky for me. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the National Football League.
All right, we're back here on Locked On Cubs. Thank you so much for starting your week with us as we record these last two segments pretty much in real time after the Justin Steele interview you just heard. We're recording here on a Friday afternoon. Very excited about the interview, Sam. We kept it under wraps, tried to do some promoting Sunday night into Monday or most of this past weekend. But, we have had quite a journey on this show, and to have the best, not the best Cubs pitcher, but I would say the best Cubs player, it was very cool.
Yeah, it was a really cool experience. It's such a different dynamic when you have somebody of that ilk on, because you're forced to change how you are. I can't sit here and do my classic Sam Olber if I'm angry, sad, whatever, because we want him to talk. So it's fun to learn that other side of the business. And like I said to him, when he was on, I think the biggest takeaway, for me was just how forthcoming he was, how accessible he was, and just being willing to, we had some scheduling stuff come up, and he was the one that was like, hey, let's make sure we get this done. So super nice guy, as he looked like from afar. And I thought, my biggest takeaway from the interview itself, and this is initial, like it just happened, was that, I thought that those guys were more like process oriented, like, hey, this is what I do, and I know it's going to work. When he said that he makes adjustments constantly, I knew that part of it, but I didn't know it was, like when I asked him about his pitch aggressiveness, it was very clear to me that he was like, there wasn't really one specific thing. I did this, I do this. I'm constantly reinventing, constantly working. And that's kind of what led me to that, versus where my question was, hey, was there one big change? And it seemed like that wasn't the case at all.
Yeah, that was a revealing part of the interview, because, he even mentioned playing catch yesterday at Sloan.
Yeah.
And making adjustments down to the catch level. And, shoot, we're barely into the new year, and he's already looking at things like that. My other takeaway is, I continue to want this team to reach the heights that we would like to see. When he has seemingly the makeup to help lead a group of 26 humans to do that, because he has the baseball profile we know to do that, and to imagine Justin Steele on an October evening on the mound,
right,
and I just really desire that, and I think that would be, maybe that would be something I would ask if I had a shot next time, to paint that picture and say, hey, well, what is it going to take? Because I think that's what's in our heads right now. We talk about the news day to day, but I really think in the back of our heads, we see a team that's had a large postseason gap. We want him to get back. He's one of the main pieces that you could see it happening. I just hope it happens.
I agree. I think the one part of the interview, if we had more time and we were kind of talking, more off the record, that I would have pushed back on with him respectfully, would have been the 2 months part. Because he mentioned luck and stuff like that, and he's right. Like, I remember, it felt like every bad bounce, every bad break went against the Cubs during that time. But to the point, and I don't want to go back here because it brings back the memories of the summer, but you and I made this point 90 times. Whatever it is, it just can't happen for 2 consecutive months.
Exactly.
And to his credit, I think he knows, like, I think he knew that and was insinuating that as well. But I think his point was, hey, there was just a lot of factors. But like, whatever it was just like, for 4 months, this was a good team. And for 2 months, it was, one of the worst teams in baseball. How does that really happen? And it's like, I would have probably pushed there, but, to his point, they didn't get a lot of breaks either. So,
yeah, but you're in the right to say that. I don't know if that's even the right expression, but I do have a challenge for something like that, because I could just go to their record, to be 17 games under for 61, 62 games is not acceptable.
Right.
And I need to do my digging. I know the Yankees and Dodgers had a 30-game skid-ish.
Yeah.
I want to actually know what that number is.
Yeah, I think
because that's what we have to be aware of this year.
And I think most teams, including the 16 Cubs, are going to have a bad 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 4 weeks. And, It's just
Yeah.
this was like 9 weeks, and that's
Right.
and that's the difference. So, but to his credit, it's not like he said it was acceptable. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I just think he was making reasons for it, and I was kind of just like, there has to be more to it than just like what they. And that was kind of my question. What was going on during that time? Like and I guess that's why I could never play the sport, because I'd be like, guys, it's mid-June. Like, we haven't played good baseball in a long time. What's going on here?
What are your thoughts on him not speaking one sentence to the Cubs brass about an extension?
Not much. I don't
Okay.
have a lot of thoughts on that. I think he
He's
likes
still
being.
got 3 more years of control.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's really not. It's on the Cubs. I think the Cubs
Right.
need to speak to him about it.
Yeah.
So that doesn't surprise me.
Okay.
With the way the Cubs are operating right now,
So, but it doesn't, like, you're not, it's a reach to say that you're
Oh,
disappointed they haven't
no,
gone
that
to,
would be
no.
that'd be a big
Yeah.
reach. I
Okay.
when we decided to ask them that, I would have been really surprised if we got, because any other thing but that answer would have been like a major headline, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like, hey, Justin Steele said this and this. So I think that answer was what I expected. And if I were him, I wouldn't come to them either. I think it's the Cubs should go, hey man, you're doing amazing work here. We want to keep you a Cub forever. Let's talk.
Well, with 3 years left on his deal, I didn't necessarily think it was on anyone's radar,
Yeah.
but
It will
I,
be. It will be.
I understand why fans are bringing it up. It's the off season. Perhaps it's something to discuss. But it doesn't seem high on the list right now.
And I don't think it should be, but I think
No.
at some point when it gets closer, I think they will they'll figure something out. Because it's also really hard to extend a guy with 2 ARB years left, or in this case, including this year 3, because you have to
Yeah.
you have to consider that as part of the deal, and then take, like, it's a tricky situation.
Coming up next, this is Cubs convention week. Let's continue to promote that right after this. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Whether it's a Cubs game comedy show or a concert, I love going to live events. Now, Game Time is a new feature called the Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats. You don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets with clear last-minute deals. All in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. The experience of searching for and then buying tickets on Game Time is simple. Plus, Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. See the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. What time is it?
Game Time.
All right, Cubs convention is this Friday, and we do have a meetup before it. 4 to 5:30 Central, Shy Bar, Sheridan Grand, Chicago, there in the heart of the city. We will be alongside Kyle Stanley from the Setup Man, a little bit of a collab here. And Saturday's schedule. So the Cubs have put out the schedule for the convention. Saturday's schedule is loaded because there's just so many players and front office and council speaking. There's just a lot of speaking on the stage. But Friday is all the introductions, including Sammy Sosa. That's going to be crazy.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Friday night. I'd like to find a way to ask a question.
Yeah, no, I would plan to ask. You should try on Saturday to ask a question.
Yeah, and a real question.
Right.
So
That'd be amazing if that happened. Now that's something I'll clip.
I'd like
It'll be on Marquee.
Like to do that. Well, as we record Friday, Marquee's televising the Stevenson versus Warren basketball game tonight. So
what if Crane Kenny had a panel? We asked a question at Marquee, and Marquee like freaked out and blacked it out live. Can you imagine?
Yeah, I mean,
that would be crazy.
I mean, I think these guys know that there's going to be some questions that come, but like, I feel like at those events, especially assuming the Cubs make a move, it'll be kind of like everyone will be happy, go lucky, and just
I
happy
wouldn't
to
assume that.
talk to these guys.
You're saying
you
in
know.
addition to Kyle Tucker.
They got to make a move before CubsCon. I think the Tucker honeymoon phase is done.
Wow, 28 days later, it's done.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think it's done with the joy, but I'm saying in terms of, hey, that's our off season. Like we always said, in addition to Tucker, they got other stuff they got to do.
Of course.
So I think they need.
Well, we'll see everybody there.
Yeah.
That'll be fun. So, all right. Thank you so much for checking out this edition of Locked On Cubs. Roki Sasaki he might sign as soon as Friday.
Yeah, and there was just a report that wasn't a good one. Jesse Rogers said that he's unlikely to visit Chicago. So
you give us 20 to 30 minutes. We'll give you all things Cubs with a laugh or two along the way. Be sure to hit subscribe on YouTube, smash the like button for the algorithm, and leave a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, and everywhere you get your podcast. All right, well, we'll see how the Cubs roster shakes out as the offseason continues. He's Sam Olber. I'm Matt Cozy. This is Locked On Cubs.